Hello, this is Dr. E from La Cañada High School. We're covering section 8.3 on endocrine disruptors and industrial water pollutants. The learning objectives is to be able to describe endocrine disruptors, describe the effects of them, be able to indicate where they come from, and what they do, such as interfering with endocrine systems and birth defects and so forth. Endocrine disruptors is a chemical that interferes with the endocrine or hormonal system of animals. They bind to cellular receptors, and so they come in here, pretend they're a hormone, and make it so that the hormone cannot bind, and therefore they either block the effects or they actually can amplify the effects. Human medications that pass into urine and into sewage systems and flush down the toilet are common source, meaning that the human sewage system cannot get rid of them. And therefore they go out into the ocean and disrupt animals such as the fish. For example, atrazine, which is a herbicide, binds to receptors on cells that convert estrogen into testosterone in male frogs. This means that male frogs have high estrogen, low testosterone, low sperm count, and even feminization, which means the eggs develop in these individuals as opposed to testes. Endocrine disruptors, for example, atrazine, is a broad-spectrum herbicide used to control weeds and crop loss. It's applied to agricultural fields, runs into local water or groundwater, or is carried away in the wind. It can contaminate human well water or enter the body via unwashed produce, so make sure you wash your produce. DDT is a broad-spectrum insecticide that was phased out back in the 1960s, but still persists in the environment today. It's applied to agricultural fields, runs off into the local surface or groundwater, or is carried by the wind. What's bad about Los Angeles is this is where a huge amount of it was actually produced, and they have found that there are storage 50-gallon drums of it still in the bottom of the ocean. Phthalates are compounds used in plastic and cosmetic manufacturing. They enter surface or groundwater via intentional dropping of trash or chemical waste from plastic or cosmetic factories that improperly disposed of the waste, and sometimes is from landfill leaching. In other words, they throw it properly into the landfill, but the bag or whatever breaks open and it leaches out. It's also found in some cosmetics, plastic food containers, such as number 3 plastics or fragrance. Lead, arsenic, and mercury are heavy metals, but we will talk about that in an upcoming slide. Many human medications enter the sewers from human urine or flush medicines. For example, birth control pills. They go into the sewage system, goes down into the sewer plants. Sewer plants actually make them active again, so that when it's flushed out into the ocean, it damages the fish. Mercury. This is in Miramata, Japan. Naturally occurring in coal. It's released by anthropogenic activities such as combustion, trash incineration, burning medical waste, heating limestone for cement. It attaches to particulate matter that's released by the burning and deposits in soil or water or wherever the particulate matter settles. It can be released if the coal ash is stored in ponds, overflows, runs off, or goes out into the ocean, such as the bay in Japan. It's an endocrine disruptor and inhibits estrogen and insulin. It interferes with menstrual cycles and ovulation. It can be a teratogen, meaning that it is harmful to the developing fetuses, and it can cause major birth defects, such as the feed here accumulates in the fetus brain. Pregnant women can reduce risk by eating less seafood. So what happens is the mercury is emitted, goes out in water, goes into the trees, down into water, out into the ocean, and it accumulates. Bile accumulates, which we'll learn more about in upcoming units. The mercury cycle, again, it's burnt, goes down in, and bile accumulates. Mercury itself isn't toxic, but the bacteria in the water sources convert it to methylmercury, which is highly toxic to animals. It's a neurotoxin that damages the central nervous system. Arsenic and lead. Arsenic is a naturally occurring element in rocks underground that can dissolve into drinking water. It's naturally released into groundwater that can worsen by mining. Anthropogenic sources, formerly in pesticides, applied to agricultural fields, can still linger in the soil. It can be oftentimes used in wood treatment chemicals to prevent rot. It's oftentimes in coal combustion and ash. It's a carcinogen. It gets into the lungs, bladder, and kidneys. It's an endocrine disruptor, specifically to the glucocorticoid system. It can be removed by water filters. This is what happens to the wood. It gets into the wood, stays in there, so if you burn it, or after a while it's raining on these telephone poles, it may leach out. Lead is found in old paint in homes, old water pipes, because oftentimes the old water pipes were made of lead. Oftentimes the soil is contaminated by particulate matter from vehicle exhaust before lead was phased out of a gas in the 1970s. It's released by particulate matter of coal combustion. It's a neurotoxin. It damages the neural system, especially of children with rapidly growing nervous systems. It's also an endocrine disruptor. But again, it can be removed with water filters. So let's make sure we get it out of the system. This is an old lead pipe. This is a new copper pipe. Make sure your home, if it was built before the 1970s, does not have any old lead pipes in it. Coal ash. Coal ash can be a source of mercury, lead, or arsenic. It can attach to the fly ash particulate matter from the smokestacks and be carried by wind deposited in ecosystems far away. Both fly and bottom coal ash are often stored on site in ponds, dug in soil, or lined with plastic sometimes. Ponds can leach into the groundwater, contaminated with arsenic, lead, or mercury. Ponds can overflow, and the runoff goes into nearby surface areas. And so this coal pond, due to flooding, goes down into the rivers and elsewhere. And so it goes down into the runoff into here. It can be in the coal ash goes down into the groundwater, and then goes up into our houses, because that's what most people drink is water from groundwater. So practice FRQ 8.3. Can you identify a toxic metal other than mercury that has a negative effect on human health? Can you describe how it is introduced into the environment? Thank you, and I hope this was helpful.